Hey, welcome back to Let's Animate. We are still working on our Star Wars Force Awakens very timely parody video. Last episode, I believe, we had just worked on getting some movement in our Star Wars crawl. Had some trouble with the timing, which is still pretty apparent. As I scroll, yeah, it's almost damagingly wrong. This is a kind of, I think, an example of something that I will fix or attempt to fix off camera because, ooh, what do we have up here? Ooh, NL references, Nick references. There's a little tease for you. Oh, what could that be? What am I working on over there? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, um, back to the task at hand. I think we will leave that for now. We'll be happy that we got the logos up, we got the stars in the back, we got the crawl started, we got the Easter egg in here, something dark side. That all looks fine to me. Now we got to figure out what we want to do in the background here. And if you recall, this is the scene that precedes it. We have a boardroom setting. We'll have this table here. We'll end up throwing in a bunch of people around this boardroom with JJ walking in all proud and excited. Then we will cut to the cart. But the cart still exists in this room. So I guess we should have... Yeah. I think we're going to end up with... I thought at one time, too, just having this zoomed right in. But I don't know. We'll see. I think we're going to want Mr. Abrams in here anyway. Maybe that's what we'll do right now is we'll work on getting the rest of him in place here. This was my reference material. We're mostly pretty good. He's got to have black hair, though. I don't know why I gave him blonde hair. That was, seems to be an oversight on my part. Maybe because he looks better with blonde hair. That's why I had it. I don't know. I guess that's relative, right? He's going to be wearing a tux because that's just... I mean, that's just too funny. I have a weird sense of humor where I find overdressed people to be funny. I know that's probably not the case. That might be one situation where I am the exception. I am the outlier. But for some reason, just people who are overdressed for an occasion, not just well dressed. Well dressed is fine, but what I'm talking about is people that are overdressed for any given occasion tend to crack me up a fair bit. So our good friend Mr. Abrams here is going to be overdressed for this, in my eyes anyway, in a formal tuxedo, whereas this is just more of a casual boardroom meeting of Disney executives. The other thing we could do, we could jump over and start to lay out. It's only 3 scenes long, and I've got 2 of the 3 scenes. If we jump over and switch to our Mickey Mouse shot, I'll do the prep work for that later. I'll figure out how I want to frame that shot where we have Mickey Mouse just sitting in a chair and I'm ready to start a slow clap. I will figure that out, and we'll come back to that later. For now, we're going to stick to focusing on a task at a time, basically, and try to get that all done fairly consistently. I have trouble with line thickness. I never know how thick. Like up here, it looks like I did his head in width of 1. So I'll continue doing the rest of his body with a width of 1 as we go along here. Let's start off. We'll do this white section that will form his neck. And we'll just... I guess we can do this overlaid here, right? It's roughly the same size. Loop that up. Pop in a spot there. Drop this down. So I was talking earlier in another video about the temperature here, and it was brutally cold earlier. But it really... I was just outside. Just came from doing some stuff I had to do. stuff that I knew about, so it wasn't too stressful. Knew it was coming. I knew I had to deal with it, and I dealt with it. And I just got back from there, and it really wasn't that bad. It was, should I do just the collar, maybe? I think it warmed up quite a bit from the time that I was taught, but it was brutally cold not long ago, and I was not comfortable. I enjoy the cold. It's that damp cold. It's just gets into your bones and it does not let go, you know? It's pretty brutal. Yeah, that's just about the right size too, you know? I'm gonna give the poor man a neck, I guess. Everybody needs a neck now and then. I'll throw that in there. He's gotta be the same color as the rest of his body, I would imagine. But yeah, temperature is one thing where I always would much rather be cold than hot. I cannot stand the heat for whatever reason. It's just wired into my blood for somehow. But I cannot stand the heat, especially a humid heat. But really, any kind of heat is bad enough in my books. Whereas cold, I'm much more tolerant of the cold. He's got a much shorter neck, doesn't he? So we'll bump up his tuxedo collar here. I'll pull this part down. He's got to be just something like this. There we go. Still give him a little bit too much of a neck. He's got to have a shorter thing going on here. But yeah, and considering that cold used to be my preferred season, or temperature rather, being so affected by the cold earlier really threw me off. Felt like an old man. I just didn't want to have to face the temperature, and that's not like me, because I do prefer the cold. I like the outdoor activities in winter. I like the everything that winter has to offer, really. And so to have been so affected by the cold like that really threw me for a loop. There's our Abrams neck. The hair, I remember before, originally the hair was really throwing me off because I didn't want to go in and do individual curls and stuff. I was hoping to maybe just come up with something that gave us a few curls so that it would give us the illusion of having curly hair. What layer is this hair on? Is it this layer that says hair? Probably. So we'll move the curls up on top of that layer, and we'll see what we can do for curls. What would give the illusion of curls? Oh boy, we're gonna need some thin strands of just individual smaller curls, but also something that gives the illusion as if it has its own body, its own, like this curl here has like its own body and its own mass to it, right? So if we could replicate that somehow in a way that is accurate but also comical, it would be great. I don't know if this is going to do the trick. Once we change his hair to the proper color, there's probably a way you can do it with texturing and a proper brush stroke and technique, but I'd rather do something that just is just kind of funny. You know, this has maybe a little bit too much mass to it. We could just shrink that in a bit. I don't know, I'm not too... Something that just gives the illusion and the sort of comic approach of having hair. What if we just then duplicated this, switch it around, and kind of do it like that? Give him almost like a couple of horns. It's a little too silly. A couple of little alien heads. I don't know. Then we'll grab our pencil. Maybe we'll up the stroke a bit to 2. What if we just kind of... It looks a little ridiculous. This is where my lack of artistic flair becomes very, very apparent. To anybody else, this would just be a no-brainer. You just do it and then boom, there's your hair. What's the problem, right? But for me, every little option, every little technique is a question and is a place to screw everything up. And that's how, because I want to do more of the illusion of curls than anything. And I mean, we're never going to be this zoomed in on his head, so you're not going to see all this. So it's just when you're here, you have the illusion that he has curly hair, right? So I wonder if you almost just go totally like almost pubic hair, hilariously textured here. And that really just fills it out pretty good, actually. Better than I thought. And I mean, you're looking at this close up and you're thinking, oh my god, this looks just ridiculous. And I'm looking at what you're seeing here. And you're right, it does look ridiculous. But what you can't see is my rendering of this as a preview, which is zoomed out. It's more representative of the entire blue box, the critical blue box, and more representative of a finished look. And that finished look is much better than what you're seeing as I actually do it. So I'm gonna go leave it for now. This looks like spaghetti nonsense, you're right, but trust me, the finished product will give that illusion of curls that you're not seeing here. It looks like an old lady's hairnet, or it looks like someone dumped old spaghetti on his head. The finished product is much different. So I'm a little bit happier with that. We're going to give him a small tie. I should have done my homework maybe a little bit better beforehand and found an actual full body picture of him in a tux, and we could have just kind of followed that motif, if you will. But I didn't do that, so we're going to do this on the fly here. So this layer also has to be kind of in behind his collar layer, which is good. And I picture this as being like one of those silly little skinny ties. I call it silly, but I don't know if those are in vogue, in fashion or not. To me, they strike me as strange. So we're just going to do this for now. That's going to be his tie. It's going to have to do. Now we'll get his, we'll call this tuxedo collar. And then we will call this tuxedo shoulders. I don't know if it's better to... I try to do multiple layers. It ends up cluttering things up. But then in the grand scheme of things, it's actually a little bit more tidy, because everything has its own place. And if I want to look for the points associated with his chin area here, I'll know that I can just go to his head layer, and then that head layer is the entire outline. Whereas if I wanted something from his ears, I have an ears layer. It makes life easier that way. But on the flip side, it means that I end up having to scroll through a whole bunch of different layers over here by the time any given scene is done. And it can kind of catch up to you after a while. But anyway, I digress. We're going to pop this in here. We're going to move along here and give him a little bit of life. Every step of the way, the project just ends up with a little bit more life. You get a little bit here, a little bit there, and then eventually you've got a finished product. And that really ends up being some of the most rewarding part, is just stepping back after a bit and realizing, I finished that thing. And when you can actually get to that point, it's a good day. And that's what's been missing for me for a while. So it's starting to see life come, a little bit of life come with every episode. Every time I sit down to do a Let's Animate, we get a little bit more life fleshed out, a little bit more detail, a little bit more to sink our teeth into and really see where the project is going and how everything is happening. And that's as far as this picture can take us, I think. That's pretty much it. Now, this is my other problem, is I tend to draw much bigger than the scene actually allows for. In this case, I would like him to have a bigger head than body. Everyone else may be a little bit more normally sized, so to speak, but I would like Mr. Abrams to have a big head, and that will be part of the joke, right? Now, this will probably be all we need. Oh, look at that. What could this be? This video has already gone up, yes, but am I working on something else with this? Maybe I am. When we do the close-up with Abrams, we really want to, I think, to have a big head. Tracing paper over to here. Pencil on the screen, an arm. Big head in this area. And then, I don't know, I guess we kind of fudge the body. I don't mind it being almost like comical, like having a big arm that reaches around and just being like really just outrageously disproportioned. And if we go with that approach, it might be best then in that case to leave him with a rather large head. That could be whoa, don't look too close. You know, I should really close some of those off because, or I'm gonna move this. I can't move these. I should have taken care of that. Not very professional, I know, but anyway, we can put this character JJ bone layer here into the library, pop him in there, and then pull him out here again. And I wonder if it's best to wait until he's finished. Maybe, yeah, it probably is. Otherwise, then we have a half-finished character in there. You can see my inner urge to jump around, and jumping around leaves a lot of things kind of partially done, as opposed to, you know, the right way to do this, which would be to sit through and get this finished. You know, one thing at a time, finish, see it to the end, and then move on from there. But already, like, I don't know how I'm gonna do the rest of his body. So I'm kind of stalling, right? Off camera, I should go and figure out how I want him positioned, and make some layers that reflect that, which I just don't have right now. So I can throw in some blobs here and maybe start to have something that takes shape for you. Like, how do we want his hands to be? We want his hands to be as if he's explaining something really important. So, you know, maybe waving and making a lot of gestures. So his arms will be kind of creased here, elbows with his forearms coming up, and he's kind of waving his hands back and forth, almost like jazz hands up here, as if he's saying something really important. And for audio over that, we will just have like literal gibberish. I was thinking either like a Simglish. Is that what they call it? Do they still call it that? The sound that the Sims make when they're speaking, and there's inflections and there's decreases in tone, but there's no real words, and you just sort of get the overall impression of what someone is trying to say. Or we'd just go Charlie Brown style, which I think is better because I can do that myself much easier, as opposed to finding some sort of free version of Simglish online at Free Sound or something like that. It may take a while sort of sifting through all that stuff, whereas I can just sit down in front of Audacity and just, you know, record myself a whole bunch of won't maybe to better effect or not better effect, but the audio is not oh, this guy needs skinny pants for sure. He's gonna have like skinny pants on. You're not gonna be able to see this anyway because of the table, which is fine, but it's just for me. I like to know that this is here, so that when I put together the rest of the body, it kind of makes sense. And we want him to be kind of diminutive. This is already a little bit too big. I made his shoulders a bit too big. We'll have the rest of his body here with his arms folded up, I'm thinking. This obviously is just a placeholder. These ridiculous little legs. I mean, I'm not an artist, but I'm also, I needed to have something a little more realistic than that. But this was just to kind of try to get a size for how the overall picture will end up looking. Yeah, even when you zoom out, you can kind of see that the curls have taken on just a sort of general impression kind of look, right? And Yeah, I like that much better. Although it looks like he's missing some teeth. What if I... Does his mouth need to be widened maybe? Maybe the lips kind of have to come up there so that when you're zoomed out... Yeah. You want him to have a smug look anyway, and I think that comes across in the rendering quite well. So I think we're going to just wrap this episode here. I'm going to quickly run and do some research, and then when I come back for the next video of this session, we'll have something else to go on and start to really bring life. The shoulders alone have done a lot. The tie has really added to the whole picture here. But we will start to be able to put together some arms maybe and start bringing some life to our good friend here. But in the meantime, I am going to put in a cut. I got homework to do. I will be back prepared for the next video. Until then, thanks very much. See you soon.